Now, at the last election, the political parties were just about falling over themselves to provide childcare and shore up those hard-working families where both parents go out to work. And of course, last week, the Prime Minister went a little bit further, saying he wanted his daughters to be able to go out to work without worrying about being paid less than their male colleagues. So what about the families where only one parent decides to go out to work and the other stays home to look after the children? Are they no longer on the family policy-making agenda? Well, Belinda Brown is an honorary research assistant at University College London and writes for Conservative Woman. Giselle Cory is a senior research fellow at the Institute for Public Policy Research. So, Giselle, why does it seem to be a consensus that childcare is a good thing?
I think that consensus has come about because that's what parents want and politicians are aware of that. So at the last election we saw childcare, as you say, in all the manifestos, and now that's being written into government policy, so we'll see an extension. Unfortunately only for working parents rather than all parents, but those working parents will see their 3 and 4 year olds have an increased amount of childcare, which is excellent. But I mean, what we've seen is that the idea of balance and the idea of doing both work and care has become a priority for parents. So we're not now talking about models where if you're caring, you're just caring, if you're working, you're just working. That works for some people, but we see for the vast majority it's some kind of balance. And what we know is that to achieve that balance you need a kind of mix of different policy interventions together.
So Belinda, they're just doing what parents want.
I think that what's happened is that the economic situation means that mothers actually have to go out to work, and because of that they are grateful for childcare because they need it, but they're not actually joining up the dots, because if you look at the broader situation, the tax system is really stacked against women who'd like to stay at home and look after their children. The fact is...
Should we say parents? Because some dads do as well.
Yes, but it's mainly women who really want to look after their children. The system is stacked against them. If you want to stay at home, for example, a household that has an income of about 50,000 will end up paying about, 7,000 more in tax if the mother stays at home. So you've got, they want childcare because they have to go out to work. But really, I think issues of choice centre around being able to look after your children. The trouble is that the women who do prioritise childcare, we don't, with this exception, have a voice in the public realm. Most women actually, the main focus, they want to look after their children, but they feel that they can't. So I think it's that the agenda has been driven by the very career-focused women, the politicians, who are not representative of the majority.
So Giselle, it's stacked against the parent who wants to stay home, because actually the government wants us all to go out to work because it's better for the economy.
No, I don't think that that's quite what the government is trying to do. And actually, let's put this in context with what parents do and what parents want. So at the moment, the majority of parents
work.
Not all
the
parents,
vast majority obviously, from what Belinda's saying.
Of dad and most mums work. So therefore, something like childcare, for example, which ensures that they can work and balance childcare, is what those parents need to keep that balance up. In terms of kind of ensuring that everyone can kind of do what they want, I think we need to prioritise, and we need to make sure that actually people don't have barriers that, for example, keep them at home, and then at the same time people aren't pushed out to work. I don't think the government nor myself would say yes, you have to go out and work. That's just it's silly. It's forcing people to do something. But what we see is that's what people want to do. So I think government is responding to people's desires rather than shaping them.
And Belinda, it is expensive to choose to work. Childcare is phenomenally expensive if there is no help, and it also creates choice for parents, and it's good for children if it's of high quality.
It's only good for children from the poorest sections of society, and we have not yet been able to create a childcare system which is benefiting the disadvantaged at all. And it's just simply not true to say that this is what parents want. If you look at research from British Social Attitudes, if you look at research from Net Mums, Resolution Foundation, what you find is that the reason women are going out to work is because they have to pay the bills. It's not because that's what they want to do. It's not because they focus on their careers. It's because they just have to earn a living and they're forced to go out to work. Of course, I'm not saying we do like to work a bit. We like to work a bit, but we don't want to have to put all our energies into our career, I think you'll really find, and this is what all the research is showing, is that actually women would like to have more choice, to be able to spend a year or 2 or 3 even at home looking after their children. And this is simply a choice we no longer have.
Giselle, do we undervalue the caring parent? I mean, if you look at other European countries, some of them do provide benefits for those who stay at home.
And I think it's really important to make sure parents can stay at home, particularly when their children are very young. So, for example, parental leave is incredibly important. At the moment, we have shared parental leave that's just come in, which means that parents can share that between them. It's not the default that the mum takes it, and I think that's incredibly important because we know that a lot of dads want to spend more time with their children and want to work less and achieve a better balance in their lives, and mums tend to want that for them too. And so ensuring that parents can make those choices about work and care is vital. And at the moment, it's common sense for many households that the parent that's earning the most is the one that stays in work when a child is born. And so ensuring that we get better balance and perhaps provide some leave that's dedicated to dads to make sure dads stay at home with their parents, I think is key. We know that benefits child development, it benefits gender equity, and also again, I keep going back to it, is what those dads want.
And there is a transferable tax allowance, Belinda. Isn't that enough when the government is trying to cut the welfare bill? You don't want to be seen to be taking welfare.
I think the transferable tax allowance ends up at being at about £200. I mean, the government is paying vast sums of money for childcare, which is just not actually being productive. And I would agree with this point. You know, I think it's great if fathers can stay at home and do some childcare, although the research shows when men do take parental leave, it's more to support the mother and the rest of the family rather than directly care for children. But the point is that this is the position in privileged households. The real issue is amongst the less well-off, the deprived. They don't even have the men there to do the childcare. And this is, if we want to eliminate poverty...
That's not fair. Come on.
Rates,
you can't be saying working class families
are
don't
much
have dads
more
who want
likely
to be
to
at
have
home.
single parents. Single parenthood is far more concentrated amongst the deprived classes, and this is the cause of child poverty. And if we want to tackle child poverty...
Yeah, so on child poverty, the best way to get out of child poverty is for families to be enabled to work. It is those poorer families who say that childcare is the biggest barrier for them. So it becomes a fairly middle-class problem if we're talking about actually, you know, should we support certain people to do certain things? It actually becomes a problem of poverty reduction if we're talking about actually should we provide childcare that means people can go out to work when otherwise they wouldn't be able to get their families out of poverty. So if we're talking about poverty reduction tools, supporting childcare is absolutely up there. I mean, it's up there on the list of the great impacts of childcare, as well as gender equality, as well as supporting maternal employment, as well as child development.
Very briefly. Your response?
I would completely disagree with you. I think the main cause of poverty is there's a lot of severe, serious male unemployment among the deprived classes, and this is why we've been focusing on women. A far better strategy would be to focus on enabling men to have a role within families, to be able to work and support those families, to be able to do childcare. This idea of men being in the family, this is a very privileged position.
And there we must stop. Belinda Brown and Giselle Cory, thank you both very much indeed for being with us. And you can let us know what you think about this, or indeed anything else in the programme. You can go to the website bbc.co.uk/Woman's Hour, or you can tweet at BBC Woman's Hour.